She left me bankrupt. My business partner betrayed me. I sued them both. It was just past 6 when I walked into our house in Elmhurst. My phone was dead, my laptop bag felt like it weighed 50 pounds, and another investor call had gone absolutely nowhere. I expected to hear the TV humming or Madison pouring herself a glass of wine in the kitchen. Instead, I found her standing in the living room, folding clothes into her suitcase with the kind of precision that told me this wasn't spontaneous. She didn't look up when I walked in. "Going somewhere?" I asked. My voice came out flat, but it filled the silence. She zipped the suitcase closed. "No hositaschen. No pause. Just zip. I want a divorce, Brandon." I blinked. The words didn't land right away. They just kind of hovered there in the air between us. "What?" She finally looked at me. Not angry, not crying, just blank, like she'd already moved on and forgotten to tell me about it. "Why?" I managed. "You're doing this now? When everything's falling apart." Madison crossed her arms. "Exactly. I need something in my life that's not falling apart." My heart was hammering against my ribs. "So your solution is to pack a bag and leave your husband when he's drowning?" "I'm not your lifeguard, Brandon." Her voice was so calm it made my skin crawl. "You gambled everything on a tech dream and lost. You're not the man I married anymore." "You mean the man who paid off your student loans?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "The man who supported your art studio for 3 years when you weren't making a dime? That man." Her jaw tightened. "This isn't about the past. It's all about the past," I snapped. "You knew this startup would take everything. You were right there with me when I signed the papers, when I took that risk. You said you believed in it." She looked away, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was with a man who had potential. Now you're just clinging to a dead idea." The words landed like a fist to the gut. "Have you met someone?" I asked. The air in the room suddenly felt thick, hard to breathe. Madison froze. Just for half a second. Not long enough to be certain, but way too long for comfort. "No," she said. I didn't believe her. Unbelievable. I started pacing, hand in my hair. "You wait until I got a bank account on life support. Until I'm one legal notice away from bankruptcy. And now you walk." She didn't reply, just wheeled her suitcase toward the door. "I won't beg," I said, planting my feet. "If this is who you are, then go." Madison paused at the door, her hand on the knob. She looked back at me one last time. "I knew you wouldn't." And then she was gone. No tears. No dramatic exit. Just the soft click of the door closing behind her. I stood there alone in the middle of the living room, surrounded by everything we'd built together. Everything she just walked away from like it was an expired lease on a storage unit she didn't need anymore. That night, the quiet felt like it had teeth. But I didn't sit down and fall apart. I didn't scream into a pillow or punch a wall. Something else was already taking root in me. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of something I couldn't see yet, but I could feel it coming. The silence in the house that night didn't feel like silence. It felt alive, creeping into every corner, settling on the furniture like fog. I didn't bother turning on the lights. Just dropped into the worn leather armchair by the fireplace. The one Madison always said was too masculine for the living room. The room was half lit by the street lamp outside and the pale glow of the microwave clock in the kitchen. I sat there for a long time, still in my jacket, staring at nothing. Eventually, I stood up, walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet above the fridge, and reached for the bottle of Blanton's I'd been saving. For what? I wasn't sure anymore. A win that never came. A celebration that got canceled. The cork made a soft pop. That tiny sound felt louder than it should have in a house that was suddenly too big for one person. I didn't bother with the glass. Just brought the bottle back to the armchair and took a slow sip. It burned, but not enough. I took another, then another. Around the fourth pour, the thoughts started to crystallize. All those jagged little pieces of memory and frustration that had been swirling around in my head like dust in sunlight. They started to settle into something I could actually look at. The startup. It used to feel like a rocket on the launch pad, full of promise, fueled by passion and late nights, and the kind of stupid confidence you only have in your 20s. But lately it felt more like a dying animal I kept trying to resuscitate, with increasingly desperate investor calls and sleepless nights that left me hollow. I opened my phone, stared at the emails I'd been avoiding. Subject line, "Declining your proposal." Another one, "Our fund is pivoting." And my personal favorite, "Final notice, outstanding balance." I swiped them all away. Not tonight. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me. Maybe she's right, I said out loud. The words tasted like rust. Maybe I'm not the man she married. A floorboard creaked somewhere near the hallway. Just the house settling, but it felt like a response. I shook my head, but I'm still standing. I reached for my phone again. Her number was still pinned at the top of my contacts. I stared at it. My thumb hovered over her name, trembling slightly. I didn't call. Instead, I opened my camera roll, started scrolling. Her birthday dinner last month. Our weekend in Lake Geneva 2 summers ago. The blurry selfie we took in the hospital hallway when my dad passed away. I stopped on that one. She had her head on my shoulder. I had tears in my eyes. I stared at it for a long time. Then I locked the phone and tossed it onto the coffee table. The clock above the mantel kept ticking. Tick, tick, tick. I'm not begging, Madison, I whispered to the empty room. That's the line you crossed. Because she didn't just leave. She waited. She waited until I was cornered, low on money, low on energy, low on hope, and then she walked. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. No explanation, no fight, just clean hands and a packed suitcase. I closed my eyes and exhaled through my nose. It wasn't even heartbreak that gripped me anymore. It was insult, the quiet kind that burrows under your skin and burns slow. I'd given her everything I had, not just money, time. Every Sunday morning coffee run, every late night call from the office when I should have been home, every I'll be home late, don't wait up. And now I was sitting in a house we'd bought together, drinking whiskey she used to hide from dinner guests, trying not to feel like the world had just voted me off the island. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to drown. No matter how deep this got, the debt, the silence, the betrayal, I wasn't going under. I poured one last shot, this time into an actual glass, held it up to the streetlight. Let the amber liquid catch the glow. To the last man standing, I muttered and drank it down. Then I picked up the remote, turned on the TV just loud enough to drown out the clock, and stared at the screen without really seeing it. Not thinking about what I'd lost, thinking about what I'd left to rebuild. It was still raining when I walked into the office that Tuesday morning. Soft, persistent rain that made the city feel like it was trapped under a gray tarp. The lobby was quiet. No receptionista anymore. No deliveries. Just the low hum of fluorescent lights and that wet paper smell from the old carpet we kept promising to replace. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, our floor, and when the doors opened, I was greeted by the echo of my own footsteps. The office was half empty now. Half the desks pushed to the side, monitors disconnected and dark. The intern table was gone. Even the big whiteboard where we used to sketch product roadmaps just sat there blank, a smudge of forgotten ideas. Derek was already there, hunched over a mug of coffee at the far end of the room. Sleeves rolled up. Same gray hoodie he always wore when things got tight. He didn't look up when I walked in. I dropped my bag by my desk, exhaled, and walked over. Madison left, I said simply. Derek looked up slowly, squinting like he hadn't slept much either. What? She's gone, I repeated. Packed her suitcase Sunday night. Said she wants a divorce. For a second, he just sat there. Then he rubbed the back of his neck and leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. Man, I'm sorry, he said quietly. That's rough. You too were. I thought you were solid. Yeah, me too. A long silence fell between us. The kind where something unspoken creeps in and settles like dust on everything. Then Derek set his mug down, folded his hands, looked me dead in the eye. I've been meaning to talk to you, he started. My stomach tightened. He glanced away briefly, then back. I think I'm going to pull out of the company. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. You're what? I want to cash out my stake, he said. I've been thinking about it for a while now. With everything slowing down, the funding drying up, the delays, I think it's time. I stared at him. The rain tapped at the window, behind him like a metronome. You're serious? He nodded. I've got a job offer already lined up. Product director at a fintech firm. More stable. Bigger team. They move fast. It's a lifeboat. I cut in. Derek didn't deny it. I turned and walked over to the window. The city below looked like a photograph left in the rain. Blurry. Distant. Look, Brandon, Derek said behind me. You know I've had your back for a long time. We built this thing together. But it's not working anymore. You know it. The market shifted. We missed our window. I can't sink with the ship just because I helped build it. I didn't answer. Just watched a cab roll through the intersection below, its yellow shape smeared in the puddles like a broken crayon. You always said we were partners, I said quietly. thick and thin. That's what you told me the day we signed the first lease. I meant it, Derek said. But this isn't personal. I turned around, looked him straight on. That's the problem, man. It should be. He looked away. I didn't argue, didn't yell. What was the point? People leave. Sometimes fast, sometimes quiet. Sometimes they even call it a favor on their way out. I'll have the paperwork drawn up, Derek said, standing. He grabbed his jacket off the back of his chair. You'll get my shares. I just want out clean. He paused at the door. Take care of yourself, B. Then he walked out. I sat down in his chair, leaned back, stared out the window again. First Madison, now to Derek, and me, still standing in a building that was starting to feel just as hollow as everything else I had left. It was raining again the morning of the hearing. I remember thinking the weather matched the mood perfectly. Gray, vet, heavy enough to keep your shoulders hunched like even the sky didn't want to look anyone in the eye. The courthouse was quiet when I walked in, just the hum of security machines and a few voices echoing off marble walls. I wore the only decent suit I still owned. Charcoal, pressed, but it was tighter than it used to be. I'd lost weight over the past few months. Didn't even realize how much until I caught my reflection in the security glass. Madison was already in the courtroom. She didn't look surprised when I walked in. She looked prepared, hair tied back, expensive coat, her lawyer beside her, flipping through papers with the confidence of someone who got paid by the hour and never missed a comma. She didn't look at me right away. I took my seat next to my own lawyer, a quiet guy named Clark who spoke more with raised eyebrows than actual words. The judge entered. Case of Harlow versus Harlow. We stood, then sat again. Madison's lawyer started things off with a tone so smooth it could have been mistaken for sympathy. Your Honor, Mrs. Harlow is entitled to half of all marital assets, including the equity in Mr. Harlow's business, regardless of current financial performance. That company was built during their marriage. She's not asking for more than her fair share, only what she legally deserves. I didn't look at her. Not first. Clark leaned over. They're going for the kill. I know, I said softly. Let them. The judge turned to us. Mr. Harlow, your response. I stood. My voice didn't shake. Your Honor, I'm not contesting the divorce. I'm not here to drag this out. I'm willing to give Madison the house, the car. All I ask is that I keep the company. What's left of it? There was a pause. The judge raised an eyebrow. The valuation of your business, as submitted, shows a significant loss. Yes, ma'am, I replied. We're down to almost nothing. But I know what I'm holding on to. It's mine to rebuild. Or bury. I finally turned to Madison. She stared straight ahead, eyes unreadable. I just want to keep the thing I poured everything into, I said. If she wants the rest, she can have it. Clark shifted beside me, surprised. Even the judge leaned back slightly, like she hadn't expected that level of clarity from someone who looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Madison's lawyer cleared his throat. My client will accept the proposal. The judge nodded. So noted. I could have just sat down, but I didn't. Instead, I turned fully to Madison and spoke loud enough for the whole room to hear. Thank you, I said, for the years we had. I wish they'd ended differently. Her jaw tightened. Whatever happens next, I added, I mean that, even if I never understand why you left. She looked at me then, briefly, but she didn't speak. I nodded once, turned to the judge. That's all. The judge was quiet for a beat. Then she offered something rare, a small nod that almost looked like respect. You're dismissed. As I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel lighter. I didn't feel stronger, but I felt intact. And sometimes that's all you need to start building again. 3 days after the hearing, I was living out of my car. Not sleeping in it. Not yet. But every shirt I owned was folded in the back seat, and my laptop bag had turned into a makeshift filing cabinet. I'd been couch hopping. 2 nights at a buddy's place in Naperville. 1 awkward night on the floor of an ex-coworker's home office. But I was running out of places to park my pride. Then the message came. Nicole Harlow. Hey, I heard about everything. If you need a place to crash, my couch is open. I'm in Joliet now. No pressure. Nicole, Madison's little sister. Younger by 5 years. Always the quiet one at family dinners. The one who'd roll her eyes when Madison tried to dominate a conversation. I remembered once, Thanksgiving, maybe 3 years ago, she'd slipped me a note under the table. You're the only reason these dinners are tolerable. I just smiled and tucked it into my pocket. Never threw it away. I didn't reply to her text right away. Took me nearly an hour just to type back. Are you sure? She answered in 5 seconds. Absolutely. Nicole's apartment sat above a florist shop on a quiet block. Liquor store on one end. Dry cleaner on the other with a sign that hadn't been updated since the 90s. The building was old but clean. The steps up to her place were narrow enough that I had to turn sideways to carry my duffel. She opened the door before I even knocked. Hey, she said, pulling the door wider. You look like a man who's either heartbroken or recently mugged. I gave her a half smile. Bit of both. The apartment was small. 2 rooms and a galley kitchen. But it was warm. Smelled like cinnamon. Had actual light coming through the windows. Her couch was draped in a soft blue blanket. A pillow already waiting. I'm not going to cry, I said, setting my bag down. But this feels like oxygen. She grinned. That pillow's yours indefinitely. The days settled into a rhythm. Mornings, I'd wake early and work from her kitchen table, pitching what remained of the company to whoever would listen. The calls were short. The answers shorter. Most emails went unread. Some bounced back entirely. I'd stare at the screen, jaw tight, trying to ignore the slow erosion of everything I'd built. Meanwhile, Nicole would float in and out, pouring coffee, humming while she got ready for work. She taught art at a local elementary school. Came home every afternoon smelling like glue and paint. Some nights we'd eat together. Cheap pasta, stir fry, whatever she could whip up with coupons and leftovers. I offered to help with groceries the first week. She waved me off. You'll pay me back when you're rich again. I'm serious, I told her. I don't take charity. She looked at me gently. And I'm not offering it. This is just life. People help each other sometimes. There was no pity in her eyes, only understanding. A week passed, then 2. One night, as she rinsed dishes and I sat with a lukewarm beer, I finally said what had been pressing at my chest. Nicole, I know this isn't your problem. And I know how weird this probably is, taking in your sister's ex. She didn't look up. You're not Madison's ex to me. I frowned. Then who am I? She turned around, wiped her hands on a towel, leaned against the sink. You're Brandon, the guy who showed up to every family barbecue, even when Madison didn't want to go. The one who helped me move out of my dorm at U of I when nobody else would. The one who laughed at my terrible jokes and told me my stupid clay mugs actually had charm. I let out a soft breath. Didn't know what to say. I'm just saying, she added, voice low. You're not here out of pity. You're here because I trust you. And because I'm glad you're here. That night, as I lay on her couch staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, I realized something that hit deeper than anything in court. This wasn't the bottom. This, Nicole's apartment, her quiet kindness, the scent of cinnamon in the hallway. This was the first brick in something new. And maybe, just maybe, I still had something worth building. The first thing I noticed that October morning was the silence. Not the heavy kind I used to drown in. A peaceful quiet that belonged to early coffee, open windows, and someone humming in the kitchen. Nicole, always off-key. Never cared. I pushed the blanket off and sat up on the couch. Except I wasn't sleeping on the couch anymore. That shift had happened months ago. Subtle. Slow. Natural. My things had drawers now. Her extra toothbrush wasn't extra anymore. One night, I'd fallen asleep next to her while we watched a movie. We never went back. We were us. And the company, somehow it survived. One tiny breakthrough. A mid-sized logistics client who took a chance on my software. That deal turned into 2. Then 6. Then I was pitching again, but this time with something I hadn't felt in forever. Confidence. This morning, I opened my laptop to check the numbers. And there it was. 6 figures. Cleared. The first real profit in over a year. I just stared at the screen. From the kitchen, Nicole called out. Is that the face of a man who finally doesn't have to eat instant noodles? I laughed. That's the face of a man who might actually buy a table that isn't from Craigslist. That night, I booked a rooftop dinner in the city. Small place. String lights overhead. Heaters glowing like warm lanterns in the crisp fall air. Nicole wore this burgundy sweater dress, and those boots she always called her splurge regret, but never stopped wearing. We ordered hot cider. Shared flatbread. Just existed. Easy. Close. Real. At some point, I looked across the table at her, lit by that amber glow, wind tossing her hair gently, and I stopped eating mid-sentence. She raised an eyebrow. What? I need to say something. She tilted her head. Okay. I love you. It just came out. No dramatic pause. No rehearsed speech. I love you, Nicole. Not because of what you've done for me, but because of who you are. This life, whatever it is, I want it with you. Her lips parted slightly. For a second, she just stared at me. Then came a blush. Soft, deep, spreading across her cheeks like sunrise. I was wondering when you'd say that, she whispered, smiling so wide it made my chest ache in the best way. Because I've been there for a while now. I reached across the table and took her hand. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it, but it buzzed again. Nicole gave me a look. You can check it. I pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Madison, we need to talk. Urgently. For a second, I just stared at it. Then, still holding Nicole's hand, I typed back. Another time. I'm on a date with your sister. Hit send. Nicole raised an eyebrow. Was that? Yep. She grinned. About time she saw who stayed. I leaned back, cider in hand, heart steady, and for the first time in a long, long while I felt whole. It was mid-afternoon, the kind of late Friday lull where emails slow to a trickle and office chatter fades in a background hum. I stood near the conference room window, watching downtown traffic crawl below like ants in molasses. Nicole had sent me a photo an hour ago. Her holding up that mug I'd once called hideous. Your favorite cup survived the dishwasher. I take that as a good omen. I smiled at my phone like a man who didn't know a storm was coming. The door to the office slammed open. I turned slowly. There she was. Madison. Windblown. Pale. Eyes rimmed with red. She didn't knock. Didn't speak. Just walked in like the room owed her silence. Brandon, she said. Her voice was already breaking. I said nothing. Just walked behind my desk and sat down. Calm. Grounded. I gestured to the chair across from me like I was welcoming a client. Not the woman who'd packed a suitcase and walked out of our life without looking back. She sat. Barely. I messed up, she whispered. Hands shaking. Badly. Worse than you know. Still I said nothing. She looked up, met my eyes, and for the first time since the divorce hearing, I saw a real fear in her face. Not anger. Not cold calculation. Just a sinking woman realizing the floor had given out. It was Derek, she said. No gas from me. No reaction. She blinked, waiting for one. We were already involved when things started falling apart at the company. I didn't plan it. It had happened. And he told me things. Said you were lost in the business. Obsessed. Blinded. My jaw tightened. I leaned back. Arms crossed. Still no words. Madison took a shaky breath. He started talking about how maybe you weren't the right guy to lead the company anymore. How if he took control, he could save it. Said he'd bring in better clients. Clean things up. I was scared. Tired. I believed him. She wiped her face with her sleeve. But he didn't save it. He drained it. Quietly. Took leads. Rerouted them to another firm he was consulting with on the side. He used me to get into your blind spot. I didn't know at first. I swear. But when I found out, I was already too far in. I stood up slowly. Walked to the window. Hands in pockets. Back to her. I thought you should hear from me, she said behind me. Before it all comes out in court. Derek's getting sued by that firm now. It's going to be public. I wanted you to know why. You wanted to get ahead of it, I said finally. My voice was low, even, not angry, just done. She swallowed. Brandon, I never meant to destroy you. I turned, met her gaze. You didn't, I said simply. You just made sure I had nothing left to stand on. Her lip trembled. I loved you, she whispered. I believe you, I replied. You just loved yourself more. She took a breath. Maybe ready to argue. Maybe ready to plead. I didn't give her the chance. There's nothing left to say, Madison. She stood slowly. Her shoulders slumped like she'd aged 10 years since walking in. Nicole's good to you, she said quietly. I can see that. She always saw you better than I did. I didn't respond. She turned, walked to the door, hand on the handle. I am sorry, she said one last time. I said nothing. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood in the middle of my office, surrounded by everything I'd rebuilt, and finally understood the shape of the wound I'd carried for over a year. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was clarity, and clarity is colder than grief. But it hurts less. I didn't rush. Gave it 2 days. Time to sit with the truth. Time for the dust to settle. Then I call Harper Knox, a lawyer I'd once pitched a software demo to. She hadn't invested, but she liked the way I presented. Said I had sharp instincts and a terrible poker face. She picked up on the first ring. Brandon, she said, curious. Didn't expect to hear from you. I need your help, I told her. And I'm not calling as a salesman. She heard the tone. Didn't ask for details. Meet me Monday. By Friday, she'd built a case. Derek had siphoned data, client, and in at least one instance, sent duplicate invoices under a dummy shell company. We had the receipts. Madison's confession had filled in the rest. Harper leaned back in her chair, flipping through pages with the calm of someone who'd taken down bigger men for less. "You sure you want to go through with this?" she asked. "Lawsuits take time, energy. You'll be dragged through it." "I already was," I said. "Now it's about standing up." She gave a small smile. "Then let's hit him where it counts." Court was quiet, cold lighting, polished wood, the kind of place that demanded composure. Derek sat across from me, wearing a navy suit that fit too well for a man claiming he'd done nothing wrong. He wouldn't look at me directly. I didn't need him to. When the judge gave me the floor, I stood, buttoned my blazer, walked up like I wasn't shaking inside. "Your Honor," I began. I trusted Derek Danner, not just with my company, but with my loyalty. He was my friend, my partner. And when things started to fall apart, when we were both supposed to carry the weight, he chose to quietly walk away with the best pieces and leave me buried under the rest. I didn't raise my voice. His betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet, strategic, hidden, and that's what made it worse. Because he didn't just want to see me fail. He needed it. I turned slightly, eyes meeting his. "You didn't just hurt me, Derek. You hurt the people who depended on us. The clients, the interns who never got paid, the employees who stayed when they should have run. This isn't revenge. This is accountability." Derek looked away. The judge reviewed the files for an hour. The courtroom was silent. Then the gavel came down. Derek's company would pay full damages. He was barred from founding another firm in-state for 5 years. His licensing was suspended. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. Outside the courthouse, I just stood still. Then my phone buzzed. "Nicole, saw the news. Proud of you. Dinner's on me tonight." 2 minutes later, a client I hadn't heard from in over a year. Then another, like little sparks on dry grass. One by one, the people came back. And just like that, ashes turned into kindling. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when she showed up. Nicole had gone out for groceries. I was sitting on the porch, legs stretched out, coffee in hand, watching amber leaves tumble across the sidewalk like they were trying to outrun the wind. The knock came soft, hesitant. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. Madison stood there in a long coat, hair tucked into a scarf, makeup barely holding back the storm in her eyes. "Brandon," she said, voice already cracking. "Please, I just need 5 minutes." I didn't move. "Just 5, she whispered. "Then I'll go. I swear." I stepped aside, not because I owed her anything, but because I needed to say what hadn't been said yet. She walked in slow, glancing around like the walls might accuse her. The living room was modest but warm. Books stacked on the table. The soft hum of Nicole's favorite jazz station playing low from the kitchen speaker. Madison took it all in, then turned toward me. "I've been thinking about you," she said, voice unsteady. "Since that day at your office. Since I finally told you everything." I nodded once. Let her speak. "I know I destroyed what we had. I know that." She swallowed hard. "But I didn't come here to rewrite history. I came here because you need to know I still love you." I looked at her, not the way I used to. Not with hope or longing, just with the quiet steadiness of a man who'd already buried a chapter. "I thought I did the right thing back then," she continued. "I was scared. I thought the business was dying, that you were slipping away. And Derek, he told me things that made it easy to believe it was all over." She paused. "But I see it now. I see what I left behind." Tears slid down her cheeks. She didn't bother wiping them. "I confessed because I couldn't carry it anymore," she said. "Not to win you back. Not to clear my name, just because I couldn't keep pretending it didn't matter. But now I'm standing here, and I can't ignore it anymore." She took a breath. "Brandon, I want another chance with you." Silence. Long enough for her hope to rise. Then crash. "I'm sorry," I said gently. "But that part of my life is over." She blinked. "I appreciate the truth," I added. "Edo. But the truth doesn't erase what you did when I needed you most." She stepped forward. "Brandon, you left," I said, not in a storm of anger, not during a fight. "You looked me in the eye and walked away while I was bleeding out. And now that I'm standing again, now that I have something to show for the wreckage, you want to come home." She trembled. "You're right," I continued. "You didn't come here to rewrite history. You came here because you can't live with how it ended." I met her eyes. "But I can." I made peace with it. She wrapped her arms around herself like the chill had finally reached her skin. I loved you, she whispered. I believe that, I replied. But Nicole loved me through it. That stopped her. She stood by me when there was nothing left to stand on, I said. She opened her door when I had nowhere to go. She filled the silence you left behind. Not to save me, just to be there. Madison's lip trembled. You're with her. I am hers, he replied. And I'm happy. Truly. A long breath shuddered through her lungs. She nodded slowly. Then she turned toward the door. Her hand hesitated on the knob. I never meant to hurt you that way. I know, I said. But you did. And with that, she opened the door and stepped out into the crisp autumn light. I watched her walk down the path. Shoulders hunched. Steps slow. She didn't look back. And neither did I. The door clicked shut behind her. And it sounded nothing like an ending. It sounded like peace. The jewelry store wasn't fancy. Tucked between a diner and an old record shop. Sign faded. Bell on the door, a little too eager. But it felt right. The man behind the counter was in his 60s. Glasses sliding down his nose. Voice low and warm. I told him I didn't want anything flashy. Nothing big. Just honest. He nodded like he understood that better than anything else I could have said. 10 minutes later, I had it. A thin gold band. One single diamond. No extra frills. It didn't need them. Nicole wasn't the type to count carats. She noticed things like quiet effort and eye contact. That night, I came home to the scent of roasted garlic and the faint crackle of vinyl playing from the corner. Nicole sat cross-legged on the couch, hair pulled back, paperback open on her lap. She looked up. You're late. I held up a bag of takeout and a small black box. Had an errand to run. She raised an eyebrow. That from a sketchy taco place or the expensive one? I smiled, walked over, set the food down. Then I took a slow breath, reached into my pocket, and lowered myself onto one knee. Her eyes widened. The book dropped. Nicole Harlow, I said quietly, my voice already catching. You took me in when I had nothing. No bride. No place. Barely a pulse. You reminded me how to breathe, how to stand back up. You didn't fix me. You just stood still beside me while I did it myself. She covered her mouth. Eyes already glossy. And now, I added, opening the box, I want to spend the rest of my life standing beside you. There was one perfect beat of silence. Then she screamed, full joy, full volume, and practically tackled me off balance as she threw her arms around my neck. Yes, she shouted. You idiot. Yes. I slipped the ring onto her finger. She looked at it like it was glowing from the inside out. Then she held my face in both hands. Are you sure? I kissed her forehead. Never been more certain. And in her arms, I didn't feel broken or lucky or even redeemed. I just fell home. The garden was small. No grand arch. No rows of strangers. No rehearsed smiles for distant relatives. Just our closest people. A soft breeze through the trees. And Nicole walking toward me in a simple white dress that floated like it belonged to the wind. I stood at the front, heart steady for once. No stage fright. No doubts. She reached me and took my hands. Her fingers were warm, always warm, and shaking just a little. I gave him a squeeze. The officiant spoke gently, but I barely heard him. My eyes didn't leave hers. When it was my turn, I didn't read from the folded card in my pocket. I just spoke. You loved me when I didn't even like myself. You stood still when the world turned its back. You didn't try to fix me. You just believed I could heal. Nicole's lips trembled. Her eyes never left mine. I don't care about yesterday, I said. All I want is every tomorrow. As long as you're in it. She didn't wait for permission. She leaned in, kissed me, soft and full, and the garden around us disappeared. Applause broke gently around us. A few tears, a few cheers, but all I saw was her. Later, as we stood hand in hand under the evening sky, I looked at everything around me. Friends, laughter, peace, and I thought, this is the win. Not the court ruling, not the money. This, finding something unshakable in the ashes of everything they tried to break. A new home, a new love, a quiet life built with both hands. The past is where it belongs. Behind me.
Stay safe out there. Until next time.